Chelsea could be looking to offload underwhelming performer Alejandro Garnacho in the upcoming summer window. Some of Chelsea's senior players, and I use senior with a little asterisk, have been assured that we are going to buy quality to reinforce the squad in the summer. Supposedly, we have been rejected again for a massive target from Barcelona we went in for in the last window. We look to be adding another wonder child to the ranks of centre-backs that we have got at the moment, and the sell-on clause for Valentin Barco has been revealed, and it's not quite as bad as I thought it would be. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC, and I've moved again. I wasn't a huge fan of the vibe in the room yesterday. Like, it's a really nice room, but I wanted a bit more light, and I feel like I found a good space here. So eagle-eyed viewers will notice that I am in a different room. It's a pub. It's literally a little pub in a garden, so I think this is probably where I'm going to rest for the next couple of weeks. But guys, before we get into it, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so let's start with the big one, and it is about Alejandro Garnacho. So, Transfer News Live reposted this article today. Now, I will go into the article a little bit. Chelsea make Alejandro Garnacho transfer decision, and that in itself, big news. So, the article goes on to read, essentially, that Chelsea have decided that Alejandro Garnacho's performance has been kind of underwhelming, right? And he wasn't exactly a really, really, really expensive asset, but he's made about 35 appearances this season with 12 GA in total. It's a difficult one with Alejandro Garnacho. It's been a bit of a rollercoaster ride for me personally. I remember last summer, I just ignored it for ages because I was just like, I'm not really a fan. There's all this stuff about, the attitude and his brother and whatever. And, but then when I actually did like a deep dive into his career so far at Manchester United until he came to Chelsea, I kind of turned it around because what I found really impressive about Alejandro Garnacho is going from an 18-year-old from the academy. I think he was a United Academy player. His performance and his GA every single season increased year on year, despite the fact that United were getting categorically worse. They from when he started, they just kept dropping positions every single season. It was like 3-4 seasons in a row, and his output kept getting better. So that actually told me that character-wise, maybe that's actually really good because he obviously feels like he's got a lot to prove. But unfortunately, at least in his first season at Chelsea, that hasn't come to pass. Our left-wing situation has been so dire for such a long time. Basically, since Eden Hazard, we haven't had a strong, solid left winger. We have tried all sorts of players. Do you know what I mean? Last year was Mudryk and Sancho, and before that we had Timo Werner. Mason Mount was playing out there a lot, and we just never really settled on someone. It's not even, you don't need the next Eden Hazard necessarily. We just need them to be average. Do you know what I mean? Like Premier League average. Garnacho, unfortunately, it's not even just the numbers. Like, his performances in general have been wasteful. Like, the issue I see with Garnacho is every single time he runs down the byline, he gets shrugged off the ball because he's not strong enough or he can't get past his man. Now, every now and again, Garnacho has come out in clutch moments like, the Sunderland game. He was the only one to score when we lost that game. The Arsenal game when he got those 2 goals back that potentially kept us in the tie for the Carabao Cup. And there always seemed to be that little bit of potential there. And it's a difficult one because what we've seen, especially since Blueco have come in, is a lot of these players that they've bought come good in their second season. Enzo Fernandez didn't set the world alight in his first season. Marco Correa, Moises Caicedo took a season to bed in. Cole Palmer's the only one that's really just come in and smashed it. And João Pedro, yeah, he's had, obviously, in when you zoom out and look at it, he's had a great season, but he's definitely been quite hot and cold. So there is this kind of niggling thought in the back of my head that if we give Garnacho another season, maybe something could come good, but at the same time, we're past that point now, aren't we? Like, as a club, we can't afford to give Garnacho another season, I don't think. So, look, I think the thing with Garnacho is we're not going to lose money on him because I think anyone will buy him for the same price that we did. And I think he probably could be successful in other teams that suit his style a little bit, and I think he could be successful in other teams that suit his style a little bit better and maybe give him a little bit more freedom and responsibility than we're able to at the moment. But I think we've seen enough from Garnacho. Do you know what I mean? For instance, albeit he's barely played at the moment, even though Garnacho's numbers are better, just from the eye test, it feels a little bit like Jamie Gittins has still got more potential, especially when Liam Rosenior came in and Gittins started playing. We started seeing him, Maresca obviously used him as a byline winger, and that doesn't really seem to suit Jamie Gittins. He seems to like being able to cut in and try and create attacks. And as soon as Liam Rosenior came in, we started seeing a bit more of that from Jamie Gittins, and we saw the beginning of a transformation for Jamie Gittins, and we haven't really seen that from Garnacho. So the truth of the fact is, we need to go in and buy a left winger, don't we? And this is a massive part of the problem in itself. We've got Quenda coming in, who, yes, can play on the left wing, but he's obviously left-footed. And if we want that profile of right-footed left winger to be an attacking force and add to our attacking force, Quenda's going to be a great option the same way that Pedro Neto is when he plays there. But if it's not particularly conducive into the way that we want to play, we're going to have to go in for another player. And what we can't do is keep everyone on the books, right? And even if the right thing to do at the moment would feel like, oh, we'll get Jamie Gittins alone and keep Garnacho as the backup for a little while. Like, although I don't dislike that as an idea, I think what we're looking at straight away is obviously Jamie Gittins is just injured all the time at the moment, isn't he? Jamie Gittins is in danger of becoming the new Romeo Lavia. So unfortunately, no one's going to come in for him, even on a loan. No one's going to be like, we'll loan Jamie Gittins, and he'll never play. Do you know what I mean? So what I think is more likely to happen, whether this, the sale of Garnacho is on or not, I'm not 100% sure. The article seems to suggest that Chelsea are, open to bids if they were to come in, and there was some noise about River Plate the other day, which I found quite interesting as well. It feels like it'd be a bit of a step back, but maybe he's homesick. But yeah, I feel like it just based on our situation at the moment, if we go in for a left winger of quality who can match the likes of Cole Palmer, João Pedro, Esteval Willian, do you know what I mean? Someone who can come in of that kind of quality and start making more of an impact, then selling Garnacho at the moment seems like the only option, not even necessarily the best one, because we can't just keep stocking with wingers, do you know what I mean? And we need someone who's a little bit older, got a little bit more experience. So guys, let me know what you think about the Garnacho situation, and I'll be really, really interested to find out in the comments whether you think we should give him the other the chance of next season or not. For me, I'm all about giving people chances, man, but where we are at the moment is like, we need to massively upgrade in lots of areas. Now, obviously, the main areas are going to be, goalkeeper, centre-back, midfield, I guess to an extent, especially if Enzo Fernandez leaves. And maybe the left wing is a bit less of an issue because at present we do have Pedro Neto who can play there. We do have Giovanni Quenda that comes in, but I do have this feeling we will go in for a left winger in the summer. Do you think Garnacho should be sacrificed for that, or do you think he should get another season? Let me know what you think in the comments. So next up, we're going to move on to a very interesting tweet posted by PYS that was reposted from Nizar Kinsella, obviously a very well-known Chelsea reporter. Chelsea have privately assured Reece James and Marc Cucurella that proven Premier League players will arrive at centre-back, midfield and in attacking areas, right? So this is kind of huge. Now, well, I know, I can see it already in the comments. It's PR, it's not going to happen. Like, I just don't think we can go, even with how ridiculous our ownership is, they're a data-driven club. They've bought young players for 2 years, and it's not working. Do you know what I mean? It's just not working. There is no argument for it at the moment, even from their point. So, financially, yeah, cool. You want to buy young players and raise their value and move them on, but that's not even really happening, because if you think about the players that we're going to sell, we're talking about Benoit Badiashile, Tosin Darabioyo, do you know what I mean? These guys we're not looking at selling loads of our youngsters and making huge amounts of profit on them, are we? We're going to have to sell some of our older players. So if we, the easiest way to win back the heart of the fans, to fix the financial situation, is sporting success at the end of the day, isn't it? I think that regardless of what you think of the owners, and I don't love the owners, do you know what I mean? I'm not loving it, but even they have to look at this abject season and some of the ridiculous performances that we've seen, the likes of PSG, Everton, making Leeds look like Real Madrid, really struggling to beat Arsenal at 5 times of asking or whatever it is. I don't know, it's been ridiculous how many times we've played Arsenal this season, and we can't get the result over them. Experience has to be the answer to that, right? And to see this, the Reece James and Marc Cucurella in particular, who are 2 strong leadership figures in the club at the moment, have been assured. Now, I spoke about this a little while ago when we talked about Reece James getting his new contract. I found it very interesting because there's all this noise and Enzo Fernandez is pushing for a move. Reece James, inarguably one of the best defenders on his day in the world at the moment, and clearly would have many suitors if he were to become available on the market. I think that there must have been a conversation there with Reece James to say, this is what we're looking to do next season. Now, look, at the end of the day, whether that happens or not is obviously up for debate. It's obviously all speculation at the moment, but it just feels like we have to go in. And experience doesn't mean we're going to go and buy 28 to 30-year-olds. Do you know what I mean? Maybe we get one, I don't know, someone to replace Tosin Darabioyo on the experience front. But at the same time, it could be more 23, 24, 25-year-olds that have experience in the Premier League, a la João Pedro, for instance. Do you know what I mean? João Pedro. And other players like Marc Cucurella had the Premier League experience, and he was playing really well for Brighton when we bought him in the first place, and he was like 24. Pedro Neto, Premier League experience. Pedro Neto's obviously not worked out amazingly well, but I feel like we're going to see a bit less of we're just not going to, a bit less of going out and buying every single youngster that's available to us because the price seems good at the moment, and focusing that on some quality and things like this coming out from Nizar Kinsella. Call him a brown envelope, call him whatever you want, I don't know. Nizar Kinsella, normally pretty good reporter, very, very Chelsea focused, and I think that this is good news. So guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. I actually, as well as the whole, signings thing, I think it's really reassuring that Marc Cucurella has been mentioned in here, because what also that leads me to believe, which is something I reported on yesterday, I have a feeling Marc Cucurella is going to be in line for a new deal, and we need that to be the case because he's got 2 years left on his deal. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, we could make a little bit of money for him now, but I think his value to the team, his value on the pitch, and the value that he showed in the comments that he made. This is the thing, is like, I've got this big thing with the whole Enzo Fernandez, Marc Cucurella situation. Enzo Fernandez just come out angling for a move. That's all it was. Do you know what I mean? He was like, right, now I'm done with this. Marc Cucurella came out with informed, eloquent, and articulate, pointed comments about what's going wrong and what they need in the squad at the moment, and I'm hoping that this is also maybe leading up to Marc Cucurella getting a new deal. So guys, let me know what you think about this. Is it all just PR? What's Nizar Kinsella like in general? My understanding that he's always pretty good on the Chelsea news. Maybe he is getting fed directly from the club, but I don't understand how this would benefit us, right? What is the point of saying stuff like this just to get the fans to calm down or to be happier for a little bit, and then going into the summer and just buying loads of kids again anyway? Like, I just don't see the value in that, so I would like to know what you guys think. Next up, we're going to talk about Fermin Lopez. Oh, that was a whole thing, wasn't it? The whole will they, won't they? Xavi Simons, there was the whole thing with Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein beefing about this last summer as well, because David Ornstein was the one who came out and dropped the news that Chelsea are interested in Fermin Lopez. Fabrizio Romano came out swinging, being like, absolutely not, it's all about Xavi Simons. And then obviously Xavi Simons ended up going to Tottenham. We didn't get Fermin Lopez, but it was confirmed that there were conversations about it. So, posted by Transfer News Live per El Nacional for the source, Chelsea would be willing to spend about 100 million euros for Fermin Lopez, but the offer is set to be rejected by Barcelona. The club's president considers the La Masia graduate untouchable and has no intention of letting him leave. So, interesting, because obviously what there is going to be is, if we lose Enzo Fernandez, there's going to be a hole in our general squad, right? Like, because the thing is, yes, Cole Palmer is the 10. Do you know what I mean? Cole Palmer's the guy you want as the 10, 100%. But without Enzo Fernandez, we completely lack a backup at all, even to play that position. Now, Fermin Lopez isn't necessarily just a number 10. He, bit more of a number 8, but can play in those. I guess he's quite similar to Enzo Fernandez in that respect, but definitely a bit less physical, more technical. The Fermin Lopez noise was all centered around like a 40 million bid kind of thing, and they wanted 60, and we just weren't willing to push it that far. But he's had a really good season with Barcelona, and he's played a lot this year, and he's still very, very young. So he fits the model. He's got experience at a high level as well, which is really, really important. Do I think Fermin Lopez for 100 million euros is a good idea? I don't know, to be completely honest. Although he looks great from what I've seen, I'm not enough of a La Liga aficionado in order to kind of make that judgment myself. But it's a player we've been linked with before, and it was obviously one they've been keeping tabs on throughout the entire season as well. We're not just looking at, this young kid might come good. Like, this young kid is coming good right now, and you can see that in the rise of the price. Do you know what I mean? If Chelsea are willing to go in with 100 million euros, whereas before we were only looking at like 30 to 40 mil, then obviously that is, in the data, isn't it? So what I also think is, where it comes to Barcelona in particular, I think it's fine and good then coming out and saying this kid's untouchable. Like, I've talked about this. I don't think any player's really untouchable. I think it's so rare. I think that there can always be a deal to be made. Not always, to be fair. Like, obviously PSG kept hold of Kylian Mbappe when there was 100 mil on the table from Real Madrid. That kind of thing can happen occasionally. But for the most part, do you know what I mean? I don't think Barcelona are in a financial position to turn down 100 million euros for someone that costs them nothing. That's pure profit. Do you know what I mean? Because he's a La Masia graduate, and we all know how pure profit works, especially as Chelsea fans, because we all have to be finance experts to support our club these days. So, look, one way or the other, I would like to know what you guys think about Fermin Lopez. Are there any guys out there watching this video at the moment that know a bit more about him than I do? From the research that I've done last season and from the clips that I've seen of him this season, he looks like a good player. Even though he's young, I think he plays beyond his years, and he is forcing his way into that first team, do you know what I mean, over people that cost a lot more money than him. So I think it's interesting, and I'd like to know what you think. Get it in the comments. So from 100 million euro players that we're probably going to get rejected for, we move on to a player that fits fits the model. This is definitely a lot more of the kind of thing that we're used to seeing, and it is about a player called Karim Coulibaly. Chelsea Dodgers reposted this via Pletty Goal. Chelsea have entered the race for 18-year-old centre-back Karim Coulibaly. A summer move is planned. Top clubs are scouting him, including Real Madrid, Man United, Newcastle, PSG and Napoli. Werder Bremen hoping for 30 to 40 mil. 30 to 40 mil is a lot for an 18-year-old, and that is in and around what we play for Yoro Hato, essentially. So I guess that's kind of the thing we'd be looking at. There's going to be a lot of size. There's going to be a lot of groans. I don't know anything about this player because I'd heard his name, I think, throughout the season a couple of times because he's obviously an 18-year-old playing in the first team at Werder Bremen. That's obviously quite impressive. But, you know, I haven't heard enough about him to be like, yeah, absolutely, we should go and do that. We obviously already have Mamadou Sarr at 20 years old. We've got Josh Achiampong. Do you know what I mean? It's like we have that kind of young centre-back thing done already. If it's a deal like a la the Sporting Lisbon deals for Dario Basugo and Giovanni Quenda, we buy him and loan him back so he can develop. Like, yeah, cool. It's a lot of money, though. That's a lot of money to spend on someone that's not coming straight into your first team. So, guys, do you know anything about Karim Coulibaly? You know, it's hard to get excited about, but this is kind of pertains to something I've mentioned before. I think what we're going to see is, like, leading up to the window, we're going to start seeing more things about these deals for the younger players, and then in the window, during and after the World Cup, that's potentially when we're going to see the experience. So I don't see this and instantly think, oh, but I thought we said we were going to buy experience. Like, the model still exists, but if they're going to adapt it and adjust it to focus on the first team in the short term, stuff like this can still happen. So let me know what you think about this. Is it just a case of, well, nothing's going to change at all? But like I say, personally, I can see why they would still want to be doing stuff like this. But even so, 30 to 40 million pounds, which is in and around 50 million euros for an 18-year-old, it's a lot of money. And we will move on to the last story of the day, and it pertains again to Valentin Barco. Quite an interesting one because I've done a few videos about Valentin Barco recently, and what was mentioned in some of these videos and some of these reports is that Valentin Barco had a sell-on clause, but up until today I didn't know what that was. So, if Chelsea sign Valentin Barco from Strasbourg this summer, more money will be due to Brighton as they have a sell-on clause worth 10%. Now, that is via Kieran Gill on Chelsea Dodgers. So that is a lot better than I thought it was going to be completely honest. I was concerned, especially you think about some of the sell-on clauses that we've seen recently. Like we're putting in 20, 30% sell-on clauses, these massive sell-on clauses for some of these players that we've let go for reasonable prices. I thought we were going to be looking at something like that, and that was a bit of a worry because buying Valentin Barco from Strasbourg in itself financially feels like a good idea because you can do it for the book value. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you're trading with club to club and there's no connection between the club, you can be like, we value him at this because of his potential. Do you know what I mean? And potential is the biggest tax. The potential tax is the biggest tax in football at the moment, even bigger than buying a player that, you know, seems like they're good or whatever. It's like, look at Esteval Willian, 60 mil for Esteval Willian at 17 years old. Absolutely nuts. Giovanni Quenda, I think we're spending something similar on. The potential tax is so huge, and Valentin Barco, although a little bit experienced, is still only 21, and if we were buying Valentin Barco from Brighton and he was their player, we'd be spending 60 mil on him. Do you know what I mean? 100%, and I don't think that's going to be the case from Strasbourg. What is interesting about this is that 10%, yeah, it's a chunk, do you know what I mean? But if we buy him for 20 mil, let's just call it 20 mil, right, for his book value, because they sold him for really cheap to Strasbourg, by the way, so his book value is going to be really low. But let's just say we buy him for 20 mil, 2 mil goes to Brighton. That's nothing. That's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's absolutely fine. And to be fair, even if it was like 30% for the sell-on clause, that's still only like 6 mil or whatever, isn't it? But either way, that's good news that we're not going to have to spend a vast amount more money on Valentin Barco than we thought we were going to need to in order to make sure that Brighton get their cut, because their cut is only 10%. And like I say, I think they sold him for like 5 or 6 mil, something like that. So in terms of amortization and book value, we're not going to, you know, they will put some money in the coffers of Strasbourg. We're not just going to fleece them. Do you know what I mean? If anything, what we've seen is like, we sold them Diego Moreira for 2 mil. Do you know what I mean? And he's turned into one of their best players. So in terms of player trading, I do think that financially it favours Strasbourg as much as Chelsea in different ways based on the different positions the clubs are in. But either way, I'm happy that by the looks of things, Valentin Barco is not going to cost a huge amount of money. I'm actually personally really excited for what I think he can bring to the squad. So, guys, that is today's news video. Tell me what you think of. Like I say, I'm in a pub. Tell me if you want to see the rest of the pub, and I'll do a little panoramic shot for the next video. Nice one, guys. Thank you very much for sticking around until the end of the video if you did, and I will catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.